Have you ever seen someone lose everything over just one small act of unfairness? Sometimes, the smallest amount of money reveals the biggest truth about a person's heart. One cold morning, a single dad mechanic stood quietly beside a luxury SUV after spending hours fixing it. All he expected was the payment he had honestly earned. Instead, he was humiliated in front of everyone by a powerful CEO who refused to pay him just $199. What happened over the next 24 hours shocked an entire town. The mechanic never argued. He never begged. He simply walked away with his dignity. But the woman who refused to pay had no idea that one kind stranger was about to change both of their lives forever. Before we begin, if stories about kindness, hope, and unexpected justice touch your heart, please take a moment to subscribe to Kindness Library, like this video, and leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. Your support helps us share more inspiring stories with people all around the world. Jacob Miller had spent the last 6 years raising his 8-year-old daughter, Lily, alone after his wife passed away from cancer. Every day started before sunrise. He packed Lily's lunch, dropped her off at school, and worked long hours in his small auto repair shop on the edge of town. His shop was not fancy. The paint was fading, and the tools were old, but people trusted Jacob because he was honest. If a repair cost less than expected, he charged less. If someone could not afford to pay right away, he often let them come back later. His kindness had earned him loyal customers, even though he barely made enough to cover rent and bills. One rainy Tuesday afternoon, a black luxury SUV rolled into his garage. The driver was Victoria Collins, the CEO of a successful technology company. She wore expensive clothes and spoke with confidence that made everyone around her nervous. "My assistant says you can fix this today," she said without even looking at Jacob. "I'll do my best," Jacob replied with a smile. After nearly 4 hours of careful work, Jacob repaired the damaged engine sensor and replaced a faulty part. The final bill came to $199. Victoria glanced at the invoice and frowned. $200 for this? That's ridiculous. Jacob calmly explained the labor and parts. "I actually kept the cost as low as possible." She crossed her arms. "I'm not paying that. You probably took advantage of me because of the car I drive." Jacob stayed respectful. "I'm sorry you feel that way, ma'am, but that's the actual cost." Victoria laughed loudly enough for everyone in the garage to hear. "You'll survive without my money." She grabbed her keys, got into the SUV, and drove away. Jacob stood there silently. His employee looked angry. "You should call the police." Jacob slowly shook his head. "No. I won't fight over money. I just hope someday she understands." That evening, Jacob returned home with groceries that were much smaller than usual. Lily noticed immediately. "Dad, are we okay?" He smiled. "We're always okay as long as we're together." The next morning, an older man quietly entered Jacob's repair shop. He looked to be in his 70s and wore simple clothes. His car had broken down a few miles away. "I'm sorry to bother you," the man said. "Can you help me?" Jacob grabbed his toolbox without asking another question. When they reached the roadside, Jacob quickly discovered the battery connection had failed. Within minutes, the car was running perfectly again. "How much do I owe you?" the older man asked. Jacob smiled warmly. "Nothing. It only took a few minutes. Just drive safely." The old man looked surprised. "You're sure?" "I'm sure." As the man prepared to leave, he noticed a family picture taped inside Jacob's toolbox. "Your daughter?" Jacob nodded proudly. "She's my whole world." The older man thanked him again before driving away. 24 hours after Victoria had refused to pay, several black cars stopped outside Jacob's garage. Neighbors watched curiously as well-dressed men stepped out. The same older gentleman walked toward Jacob. "My name is Richard Collins," he said with a gentle smile. Jacob suddenly recognized the last name. "Collins? As in Victoria Collins?" Richard nodded. She's my daughter. Jacob became uncomfortable. If you're here about yesterday, I don't want any trouble. Richard sighed deeply. I came because I heard exactly what happened. He reached into his jacket and handed Jacob an envelope. Inside was a check for $19 million. Jacob stared at it in complete disbelief. There has to be some mistake. There isn't, Richard replied. You see, many years ago I built our family's business from nothing. My wife and I were poor. Good people helped us survive. I promised myself that if I ever became successful, I would never forget kindness. He paused. Yesterday my daughter showed me that she forgot that lesson. Jacob looked speechless. I can't accept this. Richard smiled kindly. This isn't payment for fixing a car. He pointed around the small garage. I've spent months searching for someone honest enough to run the community foundation I recently created. Yesterday my daughter unknowingly gave me the final interview. Jacob blinked in surprise. The way you treated her after she refused to pay told me everything I needed to know. Richard continued. I investigated your shop overnight. I spoke with your customers. They all told the same story. You help people even when they can't pay. You care more about doing what's right than making money. Jacob's eyes filled with tears. I was just trying to be a decent person. Richard smiled. Exactly. The foundation would repair vehicles for struggling families, veterans, teachers, and single parents across the country. The $19 million would fund the project, and Jacob would lead it. A few days later, Victoria came to the garage herself. She looked completely different. There was no pride in her voice. Only regret. I'm sorry, she whispered. I judged you without knowing you. Jacob nodded gently. I forgive you. She handed him $200. This is what I owed you. Jacob accepted the payment with a smile. Thank you. Victoria looked around the busy garage where volunteers were already preparing for the new foundation. I wish I had treated you differently. Jacob replied softly. It's never too late to choose kindness. Over the following years, thousands of families received free car repairs through the foundation. Parents made it to work. Children got safely to school. Elderly people reached medical appointments. Every repaired vehicle carried a small message on the receipt. Kindness always travels farther than money. Lily often stood beside her father as families thanked him with tears of joy. One evening she asked, Dad, did that mean Lady change? Jacob smiled toward the sunset. People can change when someone gives them a chance. Lily nodded. Then I want to grow up helping people too. Jacob hugged his daughter tightly, knowing that was the greatest reward he could ever receive. Sometimes life seems unfair. Honest people struggle while others appear to get away with selfish choices. But kindness has a quiet strength that never disappears. Every caring word, every helping hand, and every act of honesty plants a seed that can grow into something far greater than we ever imagine. If this story touched your heart, remember that you never know whose life you might change with one simple act of kindness. Be patient. Be generous. Be fair. The world needs more people who choose compassion even when no one is watching. And one day, your kindness may come back in ways you could never expect.